It's Aleya Antoine. You're listening to Tease Podcast.
Everyone loves the tease. Stop.
But don't get too excited. Are you kidding me? As soon as I think maybe you're just a nice guy, you prove me wrong. You prove me wrong, and why did I fall for it? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tease Podcast. It is officially week 10, and I could not be more excited. We are in the double digits now. We are an adult. We are doing the thing, and honestly, thank you guys for listening this far, so that way I had the motivation to make it to episode 10. My name is Aleya, and I'm your host for the show. That I feel like I shouldn't say that. I was listening to at least 5 other podcasts to do research, and they all introduced themselves in the beginning, but that just felt really weird. So whatever. But what I did want to go over pertaining to the podcast was the structure of it. So I want this podcast to be like very conversational, storytelling, giving advice. So it's not going to have like that strict structure that someone who is like only focusing on one thing is going to have. But for those of you that need the organization and everything, I just want to let y'all know what I am genuinely coming at with every month. Wait, no, what did I just say? I just want those of y'all who need like the organizational structure to know what you can expect every single week. So for now, the way that I am structuring this podcast is like the beginning, we're going to do an intro, we're going to do some life updates, there's going to be storytelling, pretty much what comes to mind as I'm going. And then after that, I like to get into a big chunk of like the overall theme of the episode, a really big takeaway, hard-hitting shit, you know. And what is hard-hitting? That varies every week. And then at the end of the episode, that is when I like to do some sort of like segment, which could either be like an operation tease where we do advice. We might be doing one today, or it can be like questions, or it will be a game. So the ending is kind of just like a fun little way to like tie it all up in a neat little bow. So that is what you can expect from every week. Speaking of things that y'all want out of this podcast, I was listening to this one, and the guy was saying that on his, he will literally name drop first and last names. It doesn't matter if it's middle school beef and this guy's 30. He is like, John Chandler, I'm coming for you. And I was like, oh my God, what if I use names? And then I ran that idea by Kai, and Kai brought something very important up. And what they said was that, hey, you could use names and that would be really funny, but just remember that like this guy's calling out old men, and that's a different ball game than calling out young women. And I was like, you're right, because I mean, I can get down, and I know the other girlies can get down. So first and last names, also for legal purposes, I don't think it's gonna happen. But like, do y'all want more of like the name, or do y'all want more of like the fun little nicknames when I'm telling the story? Like, do you want Highway Girl or do you want Bailey? Like, you know what I mean? Just let me know. That way I can give the people what they want. It is crazy, the whirlwind that has been happening, but I think I might say that every week. But there has been some highs and lows since we last spoke. First high that I would like to bring up, which I think is why I'm dressed like this. I am wearing like a soft white dress if you're not watching. I think it's because I feel like a mature adult. And that is because I graduated, bitches. Pretty and smart. How? I'm a communications major. It does take brains, but it's definitely not a neurological one. Oh my God, was that self-deprecating? Anywho, we're getting into that too. I graduated this week, which was extremely exciting. It started to feel like the day would never come. Here's one weird thing about graduating though, is that once it happened, so I already had my ceremony back in May because they don't do a summer ceremony. So the way that it happened was I kind of just took my last exam and I just shut the laptop. You know, when you grow up and everyone tells you about graduating, I don't think that like your dream image is you just close the laptop and that's it. That's like what? Like when I watch TV on Netflix, oh, I finished the episode, close the laptop. So it was very surreal. And to celebrate, I just spent the entire day doing nothing. I laid on this here couch in pink lighting and it was just like, you know what? I just want to lay here and feel like I am passed the fuck out. I think I took some celebratory bong rips, but that was about it. Here's the weird thing about graduating school though, and I don't know if anyone else feels this with like the little things that they have to do, you know? Obviously I was over school, right? But as much as I hated homework, it took away from the work I actually had to do. It took away from the podcast. It took away from my social life. Like, I hated homework. But the thing about homework is that it gives you like a little mini sense of accomplishment in increments. That feeling of productivity when you finish like a piece of homework really quickly. I'm kind of gonna miss that because like, I don't know, I think I liked the validation of it. I like something telling me that I did a good job. But nonetheless, I can already feel more creative since I've graduated. I heard that the best advice is not to jump straight into a career afterwards, which I was like, okay, like I won't go straight into loading myself with a bunch of extra tasks. And then I call my grandma to tell her that like I finished my stuff. And her first question was, all right, so what job is coming up next? And I know that we all want to be like, oh my gosh, we're adults. We're past the point of our families telling us things. We're past the point of like their opinions weighing heavily and everything. But you have to admit that like, it always just kind of like feels like just a push pin in you, you know? Like it doesn't feel like a full-on needle. It doesn't feel like a full-on slap in the face. It just is a little pinch. Like I was like, oh my God, should I be looking for a career? Even though I had already had this whole complete inner monologue about how I was going to give myself rest. I don't know. I'm starting to feel like if I stay on this hamster wheel, I'm going to be one of those people that goes, well, you know what they say, you don't sleep till you're dead. And so, yeah. Another life update that happened is that me and Kai actually went on our first date since getting back together. We went to the Museum of Illusions in Seattle, which was really cool. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it would have been so fun. And don't hate on me for this. I'm wondering if some of y'all can agree. It would have been so much fun if there was just less kids there. I'm sorry. Don't sue me. Don't send parent-teacher conference my way. But is it just me as a childless human being in this world? Sometimes being in spaces with children is just like so overwhelming. I can't do that. And I'm saying this as someone who has siblings who are like 6 and 8. Like I've been around kids for a long time. But it's just that some people don't know how to parent. And I'm not trying to come at anyone, but I remember even when I used to work at Twins, like people would bring their little child to like Hooters or Twin Peaks and then let them just run around and not even watch them. Okay, who else agrees that we just need to have more activities and spaces with at least one adult only hour? Like when I'm at the movies at a midnight movie, and we're watching Inside Out that late at night because we don't want to be around the kids. We know it's their movie. I feel like that 11 p.m. showing should just be for adults only. I don't know. Don't sue me. Don't come at me. I know that when I possibly, if I ever wanted to have a kid, I might think differently. That's what my mom always tells me. But I'm just saying that I think that it would be nice if we had, you know, we have adults only resorts. We should just have at least 1 hour. Just 1 hour is all I'm saying. At every like practical big business. You know what I mean? Unless it's catered for kids, you know? The downside of the life updates, my car got hit. This is now the fucking 6th time or something that my car got hit. And the craziest part was that I just kind of knew it was coming. Like, have y'all ever felt that? I feel like before like that kind of thing, you're like, something about driving today doesn't feel like I should do it. And it was crazy because I was already having a bad day, but I decided, you know what? I'm just going to take it easy today. I'm going to go to Trader Joe's. I'm going to get that serotonin because I feel like Trader Joe's just gives it to me. I go to Trader Joe's. I get corn dogs, espresso, wine, and puffy Cheetos. It was a weird order that I got. The guy was probably looking at me like you are a walking red flag. I put it all in. I'm reversing right. And the Mini Cooper behind me is also reversing. But it was like they just started. So I start, like, I honk a little bit, like, hey, like, I'm just gonna go through. And it stops. And so I'm like, okay. And then it just rams in the back of me. The guy gets out. He's like probably 70 years old. I was like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? He's like, are you okay? Da da da. I just, I looked at the damage and I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything weird with it running. And those days to where you just don't have time for it. Like, I'm sorry, but I didn't even have time to get mad. I didn't have time to get angry. I didn't have time to cry about my car. Like, I think that I was just having one of those days where you're so like dragging your feet through the mud that I was like, it's fine. And honestly, I was thinking of being a little bit dramatic just for the simple facts that he was a man. I'm not lying. I literally was going to just be going crazy and call the insurance company and get his license plate simply because he was a guy. But I decided, you know what? There's nothing wrong with my car, and I just want to go home and eat these Trader Joe's corn dogs and have a glass of wine. And I think I have the glass on the floor next to me as well. And for those of you who don't feel the same sentiment of wanting to go hard at people simply because they're men, let me break down another recent experience for you, because I know that I can't be the only one, right? So I had to edit the episode that was me and Kai's episode, and I really wanted to... I'm sorry. I'm obsessed, and I mean like ridiculously thirsty to be a cafe girly. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to a little cafe, but then it looked kind of busy and the library was right next to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, how like entrepreneur, girl on the go, just out of college of me would it be to go to the library? Plus, like, I don't know, I have a faint memory of when I was a kid, back before like technology took over everything. I'm saying this like I wasn't born in '02, but I remember the library being kind of like a vibe. So I'm like, okay, let me go into the library. I know they're gonna have strong Wi-Fi, even though I didn't need it. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna edit, right? I walk in and there's all these open tables. But I didn't want to sit in like the middle of the library. So I walk all the way to the back, just because, like when you sit in the middle, then you have to see every single person that walks by. Like, I hate being the walk by table. It's like being the bathroom table. Like, I don't want to know who is all in this building. You know what I mean? So I find a seat right next to the window. Of course, it had to be the one seat that was in between two other people. But I don't know, like, I just sat down there because they were evenly spaced, and I was like, whatever, I'm already over here, and I have like this fear of walking around aimlessly. I think it's because the few times that I have just given in and let myself walk around like whatever, some bitch has always stopped me and been like, are you lost? Do you need anything? Like, I hate that. Don't you hate when you're lost and you don't actually want help and someone asks you if you're lost? Oh, like even when I started a new job, like I'm trying to learn everything, right? And someone's like, you got it? You look like you're confused. Why would you look at me and say, you look like you're confused? So I find a table, right? I sit down. It's really nice. Guys, I literally take 1 second to look over to my shoulder and see, is there an outlet to charge my laptop? My laptop was at 100%, but I just wanted to know, there's a chance that I could be editing for like 6 hours. If that happens, can I charge my laptop at this table, or will I need to move? One, like 5-second glance over the shoulder, back up. And the fucking guy next to me looks over and is like, oh, are you looking for an outlet? Because it's right here. Sorry, I just have my bag over it. Keep in mind, every table had an individual outlet because the thing that he was pointing to, my table had one. And I was just like, oh, thank you. I was just looking. And he's like, oh, I'll get up. Let me move it. I was like, no, like, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, I was just making sure for a backup plan. First of all, why am I having a whole conversation in the library? That's one thing about men, is that they will just loop you into a conversation in moments where the last thing you want to do is talk to someone. And I'm like, no, it's fine. And then he's like, oh, okay, sorry. And I was just like, you know what? Maybe this was actually just a nice guy. I am being cynical. I am being a pessimist. And I am just shutting this guy down simply because of his gender or sex. Let me take a step back. Maybe he's being nice. Keep in mind, my headphones are on. Speaking of which, why do men talk to you when your headphones are on? Literally, I remember being on a plane and the guy was like, "Oh, you must really like pink," from the aisle across from me. My headphones are on and I have to turn across and talk to them. Okay, back to the story. My headphones are on and he goes, "Oh yeah, I just had my bag over it because it's pretty chilly in here. The room is very hot. It is not chilly." And he goes, "Yeah, it's really cold. I don't know." And just like darting eyes at my boobs is like, "Yeah, I don't know how you wear like those type of tops." And if you can't see me, I'm rubbing my hand over my chest and not in a hot, sexy way. He was like doing that. Like, "I don't know how you walk around like with that and you're not cold." Like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? As soon as I think maybe you're just a nice guy, you prove me wrong. You prove me wrong, and why did I fall for it? And he's just like staring there. There's no eye contact, just straight at the chest. That's the audacity of it, is that it wasn't one of those quick glances. Like, it was a stare. Like, it lasted at least over 10 seconds. And then he sits down. And keep in mind, I'm thinking the whole time the library is hot. So I know that he's just saying that. And here's the part about this story that I want to talk about, because I feel like as humans dealing with wild men on the loose everywhere we go, I want to talk about how we approach these situations. Because after this guy basically just invaded my space, gave me a very weird stare that wasn't to my eyes, and made me feel completely uncomfortable, I was very alarmed by what I did next. Because what I did next just shows that I need to work on myself, and we as a society need to work on something. Because after he said that, I don't even say anything. I just go back to my laptop, and it was like I couldn't move. Like, I was trying to go to like my website, trying to edit, and it was like I just couldn't do it. Like, my eyes felt like they were going back and forth blurry. I felt like I was frozen to my chair. My heart felt like it was beating out of its chest. Like, I had like a bodily response that just froze me. I guess it's like that fight, flight, or freeze, right? Like, I wasn't in immediate danger. He wasn't going like on and trying to chase me out, right? But I was in a situation that made me feel extremely uncomfortable. And instead of getting up out of my table and immediately moving, I felt like I was frozen, buckled to my chair. And the worst part is that I'm thinking, okay, maybe I should go to another table. And as soon as I thought that, the messed up part is I thought, well, what if it makes him uncomfortable? What? My first thought after a man made me feel uncomfortable was, maybe I shouldn't leave too fast, because that might make him feel bad. That might make him feel uncomfortable. Why would that be my first thought? Why is my first thought for someone who made me uncomfortable to not make them uncomfortable? And I think that a lot of women experience this. We feel like, yeah, you already made me feel uncomfortable, but we feel the social responsibility to take on someone else's emotions, no matter what it's doing to our own mental health. I mean, at the end of the day, imagine if this guy was dangerous and the first thing that I thought is that. That's insane. The thing was that this wasn't just, oh, I thought that I had this revelation on this mindset and depiction of society and then I moved. No, like, I was probably having a whole intrapersonal battle for at least 5 minutes, just sitting there thinking, what do I do? Should I get up now? But if I get up now, is he gonna follow me? If I get up now, is he gonna be like, oh, why are you leaving? Like, I am like having this whole internal conflict on, one, I don't want to make this man uncomfortable, and two, I don't want him to talk to me again, and I also don't want to trigger or upset him too bad, which is basically the definition of going on my tippy toes about it. I finally just, I don't know what got me out of it. I think it was just that, like, I was like, Aleya, like, you can't just sit here glitching in your chair. You need to make a decision, because also you have to edit. And so I finally get up. I don't just leave the library. I leave. I go to that busy cafe, which I think was really good for me because it forced me to walk through a busy place and decide on where to sit. It was just so mind-boggling and so baffling to me that my first thought wasn't even to protect my feelings, but my first thought was to protect his feelings. And here's the thing. I know that a lot of people, when they address these type of issues, they really want to be like, and you know that this can happen with women to men and other people can feel uncomfortable. And I'm sorry, but that's not what this story is about. That's not what I'm focusing on. This isn't a story that's supposed to be well-rounded on every type of situation this could happen to. I honestly just wanted to bring light to when men specifically do this, because I think that there needs to be like some sort of accountability, and mostly because this exact same scenario is not unique to me and it happens a lot, and I didn't want this to be like some sort of like sad story, honestly, but I just thought, oh my gosh, if this just happened to me, do y'all feel like that too? Am I dramatic? Maybe I haven't healed my own wounds with men, you know what I mean? Or on the opposite side, maybe you're also in these type of scenarios, because I'm sure it happens to you. I mean, you go to the grocery store, right? And someone says something to you, right? And we're just conditioned to smile and laugh, and it's so funny. But it honestly, for a lot of people, I don't think it's funny. I think for a lot of people, it can make us feel really uncomfortable. And I think for a lot of people, it can make us feel scared. It can make us feel nervous. And it can make us feel like I couldn't even be in the same space. I had to get up and leave. In that scenario, he should have been the one to get up and leave. But that's all I want to say about that. Woo. Sorry, guys. I did not want to like get like deep and like on that. But I just thought that maybe someone else could relate. I kind of feel bad for like putting y'all on that loop, honestly. Okay, wait. Maybe now I'm self-blaming. Let's move on. And on that note, I wanted to talk about the episode 8 that I released, where I was talking about resetting and rebranding. I wanted to talk about this because when I was referencing new chapters and everything, I realized that I didn't want to come off as if this is some ultimate life reset that can change my life and that I finally reached that point where I'm like, this is a new chapter. Because here's the thing. I honestly don't think that resets, rebrands, new chapters just make your life perfect and peachy and they solve all your problems. I also don't believe that you will only have one of those in life. Yes, that sounds a little pessimistic, but this is not a clean girl podcast. This is not a self-help. This is how you improve your life. This is how you become an it girl. This is how you do this. This is not one of those type of podcasts, because honestly, I've watched those YouTube videos before. I've listened to those types before, and they're all bullshit. There is no such thing as making one singular change in your life, or implementing a new schedule, or implementing green juice, yoga, all of this, that is going to completely change your life. And I say this as someone who drinks greens on the daily. I do meditations, I do yoga, I journal, I do all of the things that they tell you to do to improve your life. And here's the thing, they don't improve your life. What actually improves your life is just mini cycles of getting to more happiness than you were at before. And I think that with August coming up, I don't think that it's just me who is ready for a new chapter, who feels like they're being pushed into one, and who needs that life reset. I think August is honestly like a natural point to be like, oh my God, what is going on right now? And I think that this is like the midway point through the year, right? Because the actual midway point is June. That's number 6, but June starts summer. And so August is kind of like that turning point to where we're getting into that second half of the year. And we're thinking, oh my God, I made my vision board, right? And I haven't accomplished anything on it. I made my vision board and I'm falling short. I said I was going to date a new type of guy and I'm dating the same guy. I'm still in the same relationship. I'm still in the same job. We start thinking, what happened to that January, new year, new me mindset? And I'm here to tell you that the second half of the year is your chance to do that. I don't know about you, but when I look back in my history of years, I always feel like the second half is dramatically different from the first year. So 1, don't stop trying. But 2, implementing one little routine change, one mindset change even if you implement 100, it doesn't guarantee that your life is going to be altered. The only thing that it guarantees is that now you have a bigger stepping stone to get to that life-altering thing. And once you do, don't think that another reset or rebrand isn't going to come your way, because in a couple months, couple years time, you will go through the same cycle all over again. And this is not being pessimistic. This is being optimistic, because I truly believe that we can constantly go through life improvements to make us better. It's one of those things that they tell you in therapy. Emotions are fluid, and if you have the opportunity to be happy, you also have the opportunity to be sad. So you just want to know that you're going on an uphill, and it doesn't mean that you're gonna climax from doing a routine change, but it does mean that you can reap out more joy, more happiness, and more benefits out of your life. I didn't want that episode or that resetting or new chapter thing to come off as if I think that I can make a couple of changes in my life, I can get rid of a couple people, and boom, my life's better. I don't think that. I just think that now there's been a lot of things that are pushing me to another recycle of my life. I think that this is actually beautiful and shows a lot, because here's the thing. When we meet new people, would you rather be friends with the person who has had a completely perfect life, is always happy and has no issues and doesn't see room for improvement because she's already got it going on? Or would you rather be friends with a person who maybe they've been through some shit, but they're on their way up, they're going through life, they're trying to figure out ways to improve? Everyone likes someone on a journey. I think that's why even like on TikTok, on Instagram, like whenever you see like an influencer reel about how perfect their life is, people are like, I call bullshit. Everyone likes a little bit of trauma in their people. I'm going to be honest. It's what makes us funny. It's what makes us relatable. And I think that it's part of the human experience. And so I think that that's a beautiful thing, is that some of maybe your low moments that you're dwelling on can actually end up making you a person with a story in the future. I literally saw this trend and it was like, I'm not just a bitch. I'm a bitch with a backstory. And that's what that kind of reminds me of. Speaking of, if you're feeling like if your vision board isn't coming to life, things aren't changing for you, I want to give you a quick little story time. And I have the visual to help me. Ta-da! This is my vision board that I made in January. In January, I was at a completely different place in my life. I don't know if I was better, worse, the jury's still out. I think we'll find that out next January. But I was looking at my vision board. I was like, oh my gosh, I have not achieved that dramatic life change that I've been wanting. And I think that we all think that. And you want to know why it hasn't came yet for you guys? Is because you never know when it's going to come yet. Some people's comes when they're like 9 years old, and other people's comes when they're 32. It's about taking little steps to get to that place. And also, I just want to let y'all know that like this positive and this like upbeat thinking, this isn't always me. This is me in the middle of a good time. You caught me at a good point, because I'll tell you a story about how I wasn't. But I did my vision board, and if you want to know how to do one, I personally just cut up a bunch of pictures that I found on Pinterest, and I honestly didn't think too hard when I picked them. I was just like, I know the vibe that I want to go. And although I was super upset that like my life wasn't going how I thought that it was going to go, I did see something really interesting on this board when I was looking at it before the episode that I wanted to share and maybe encourage you to make a vision board. So on the vision board, I have a girl with a graduation cap, and I have a Canon camera and a passport, right? And what I thought was really interesting was, yeah, I knew I was going to graduate, so I kind of knew I was putting that one on, but I didn't know that I was going to attend the ceremony. I honestly didn't even really want to. I went, and it ended up being good. So that's already a vision that I didn't put a lot of thought into that kind of came up. Here's the one that really kind of weirded me out though, because it has to do with what we're doing right now. So on my vision board, I put 2 pictures of vlog cameras and girls standing in front of them. You see right here. When I put those pictures on, honestly, I put them on just to represent content creation as a whole. I never really wanted a YouTube channel. I never wanted to be a YouTuber. I think that I could be perceived as someone who has like a big personality, but not that big that I'm gonna make YouTube videos doing crazy ass shit or like doing really in detail vlogs about my life. Like I was just like, that's not really on the list. I kind of just put a camera on there. And the craziest part was that I put these pictures, right, not thinking about it. And now here I am recording in front of a camera and I have a YouTube channel. I did not put this on with the intention of the podcast. Pinky promise, guys. I promise you that I did not think of the podcast. I came up with the idea to do a podcast again while I was high as fuck in the shower with the heat turned all the way up, listening to The Weeknd, which is how I come up with all of my great ideas. Hi, The Weeknd shower. Actually, guys, I'm convinced that like if I ever had a kid, I would come up with their names for their like all of my ideas, even the podcast ideas, like the episodes that I'm doing right now. Half of the time, I either get that creativity when I'm doing that or when I'm listening to another podcast. So the fact that I put those cameras on there, not even thinking that I was ever going to have a podcast, like I didn't think of this idea to relaunch until March. And even when I did, I was like, that's so stupid because it's 2024. You're never going to get it off the ground. You know what I mean? And what the fuck? And the craziest part is that, yeah, there's a Canon G7X on the vision board, but there is a Sony Alpha ZV-E10 camera. I don't know shit about cameras, but I do know that that camera is the one that I'm recording in front of right now. What? And that's what I mean, that like, yeah, the vision board hasn't happened, but there has been little tokens of success, little tokens of happiness that we can look forward to. And I think that when you reset, you're just looking to have maybe a couple more of those moments, you know? It's honestly so crazy that I'm sitting here saying this right now, because when I say that I have two sides, I am split down the middle. One part of me is talking how I'm talking right now, super, yeah, we can do it, and there's moments of happiness and this and this. The other side of me, guys, is like crippling anxiety, beating myself up, bullying myself, and having little to no self-confidence at all. Like, it's kind of crazy, the juxtaposition of my advice to a person if you were to catch me on the wrong day. And here's the thing, I tend to be, and I think that we all do this, a lot more kinder and a lot more optimistic when it's to someone else. But literally this past Friday, I was going to record for an event because occasionally I'll do like TikToks and that kind of stuff for an event. And as we're driving over there, I all of a sudden feel like this massive wave of dread come over me. It felt like the dark shadow of myself was coming to tell me how much I was going to embarrass myself, how bad I was going to look, how no one would talk to me, how no one would like me, how I didn't like myself. Maybe I should just delete the podcast. Maybe I should delete everything. Maybe I should go off the grid and move to another continent. Like, I don't know what happened in that like drive, but it was just this flip of when the GPS said 10 minutes away, I lost my shit. And Kai's in the car with me, poor thing, and I am like having a full-on meltdown. I am crying. I am just talking about how I'm not good at anything that I'm doing, how I'm not good at any of the things that I've tried, how I don't have the skill set, just going on this complete like self-degradation thing, right? It was all going to the event. I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to record for this event because I have no confidence right now. Like, I just feel like I'm stuck and I just need to reevaluate everything. And Kai actually gave me some of the best and most real advice that I've gotten when I get in moments like that. And I think that a lot of us, when we get in moments like that and we're asking someone else for advice, I honestly don't even know what I'm looking for when I'm looking for advice. Maybe there's times where I'm looking for someone just cuddle me and tell me, you're the best person ever. And maybe there's other times where I'm looking for someone to agree. And the best thing that Kai did for me that day was that he didn't do any of those things. He literally looked me dead in the fucking eye and said, I'm going to be honest with you right now. I don't really have like time for this. What do you mean you don't have time for it? And he was just like, this happens with you a lot. You're either super optimistic or you're like this version of yourself. And I think that at the end of the day, you need to make the skills to get like yourself out of it. But then also you have to think, are you even right now? Are you going to actually delete everything and go off the grid? Like, if you're thinking that so hard, then just do it. And if you know damn well that this is just a meltdown and that you're going to have to go in there and that you don't have what it takes to give up, because here's the thing, giving up is always worse than not keeping going, then like do it. Show me that you're actually prepared to give up. And if you're not, then you know that the way that you're acting right now isn't even an option for you to be acting like. That was crazy. I've never gotten advice like that. I think it was crazy too because I expected Kai to coddle me and to tell me how perfect I am or something like that. And I think that what I actually needed was what Kai actually said. And the craziest part is that while I'm going on this whole downward spiral of myself, I go into the event, right? And this girl ends up talking to me and is telling me about how like she's seen me before and she loves my content and just like giving me these really high praises. Oh my God, I really wanted to be in the TikTok. I wanted to do this. Like, and this is like not just from her, but a couple other people. And I'm like, what the fuck? Wait, y'all think I'm kind of cool? Because if you heard me in the car, you would be surprised by some of the things that I had to be about myself. Like, out of everyone that I interacted with that night, the only person who was a complete bitch that didn't believe in me was myself. And so I think that it's one of those things where we have to remember no one is judging us as harsh as we are ourselves. No one is even probably thinking about us besides ourselves. No one cares or is thinking hard about what we're doing besides ourselves. So what is the point of beating ourselves up? Also, on that note, I just want to let you guys know, because someone did at that event tell me that they thought that I ran an event and that like I was in charge of things or that I'm a club promoter or this and that. I want to make it just very clear that I don't own another event and I do not run another event. The only thing that I do around Seattle is occasionally make TikToks for events going on. I pinky promise I do not own, run, or am on the board of anything. It was kind of alarming because when they asked me that, it was like in a very negative way. Like they were like, yeah, I know about you. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. But after all of this like up and down mentality that I've been having lately, and that like I know that all of us are going through with that mid-year thing, I thought it was time to go back to the basics. And if y'all wouldn't mind, I would love to introduce you guys to the book that pulls me out of my funk every fucking time. I am going to do an Operation Tease for you guys. I came up with the idea to do a podcast again while I was high as fuck in the shower with the heat turned all the way up, listening to The Weeknd. This is called The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control. And this book is not affiliated with the podcast or anything. This is just something that I really like to look at when I feel like I am spiraling, when I feel like I am self-sabotaging, when I feel like I am beating myself up, and when I also feel like one of the reasons I think why this happens to me is I am a perfectionist. I have control issues, and that like if something's not going exactly how I want it, well then it's bad. And so this book, honestly, the last time I read it, I think was probably almost a year ago, but I would say it's one of those things that I like annually look back at because I annotated the fuck out of it. The amount of highlights that are in here is ridiculous. And so I wanted to read you guys some things out of it that I think could help you too, especially because one thing that it does say in this book is that pretty much anyone who gender or sex or identity, anything with femininity, tends to be a perfectionist in some way, shape, or form. And that's kind of how we end up being mean to ourselves and to others. You know what I mean? I wanted to start with, it talks about what type of perfectionist that you can be. There are multiple types of perfectionists, and that it really isn't one size fits all. And one thing that I really like that this book did highlight, if you feel like you're someone who identifies with like being a perfectionist or being hard on yourselves, is that it does say that a lot of times we tend to glamour it and minimize it, like, oh, you're just mad that it didn't go your way, you're a perfectionist. When really it can like be things a lot deeper than that. So the first thing that it talks about is like the different type of perfectionist that you are, and it also has a quiz on it, which I thought was really cool. So I'm going to read y'all the 5 different types that there are, and y'all tell me if you identify with any of these. So there's intense, classic, how do you say Parisian? Parisian. Procrastinated perfectionist and messy perfectionist. So intense perfectionists are effortlessly direct and maintain razor sharp focus on achieving their goal. Left unchecked, their standards go from high to impossible, and they can be punitive with others and themselves for not achieving impossible standards. I definitely identify with this. So this is basically saying you like things so perfect that your standards are so high, they're close to impossible. But when you or others don't reach those standards, you are pissed off about it pretty much. A classic perfectionist are highly reliable, consistent, and detail-oriented, and they add stability to their environment. Left unchecked, they struggle to adapt to spontaneity or change a routine, and they can experience difficulty connecting meaningfully with others. So a classic perfectionist, that's going to be like your normal run-of-the-mill perfectionist who like things to be very consistent, very stable. But as soon as you're like, hey, can we do a schedule change? Or hey, let's do this new experience that isn't in your plan, they freak out. A Parisian perfectionist possesses a live wire understanding of the power of interpersonal connection and holds a strong capacity for empathy. Left unchecked, their desire to connect to others can metastasize into toxic people pleasing. These are the people that are perfectionists socially. They're honestly people who they think if I don't have the perfect conversation with this person, they are going to hate me. They think that socially their flaws are unacceptable, and so then they go into people-pleasing tendencies because they're like, well, that went perfectly. I said the exact right things. I followed the script that you're supposed to say. Procrastinator perfectionists. They excel at preparing, can see opportunities from a 360-degree perspective, and have good impulse control. Left unchecked, their preparative measures hit a point of diminishing returns, resulting in indecisiveness and inaction. The procrastinator perfectionist is someone who says, oh, don't worry, I'm starting that new goal that I plan on doing, but I just need to be in the right environment. I'm going to go to school this year only if I have this amount of money. I'm going to start this new job only if it's at this specific company. I plan on changing my diet, but I need this to happen first. They always need something to happen first before they can start something. And the problem with this is that they feel like they need to overly prepare to the point of that nothing gets done because nothing is ever going to always fall completely in line. The very last one is a messy perfectionist. A messy perfectionist effortlessly pushes through the anxiety of new beginnings. They're superstar idea generators. They adapt to spontaneity well and are naturally enthusiastic. Left unchecked, they struggle to stay focused on their goals, ultimately spreading their energy too thin to follow through on their commitments. I relate to this. I am actually a perfectionist. It's one of those people that they take on too many things that they end up failing at all of them on accident. They are so scatterbrained. They probably need to implement a huge schedule change in their life. And they're the type that will say yes to 3 different things on one day. But the problem is when you put your energy into so many different things at once, you're never going to give your full 100% to things. So those are the different types of perfectionists. If you identify with these, I definitely recommend that you get a book. But I think that we all can see like a little bit ourselves in them. And don't worry, like there is way longer explanations. But what I wanted to do was read through some of the things that I highlighted on here in case they're things that maybe also you needed to hear today. And if y'all do like this book, then I am totally down to maybe do like more things on focusing on this. So we'll see. So here's one thing that I really liked. In the most basic sense, managing your perfectionism looks like becoming aware of the core impulse all perfectionists reflectively experience. Noticing room for improvement. This could be better. You know, this could be better about me. This could be better about my life. Perfectionists are people who consistently notice the difference between an ideal and a reality, and who strive to maintain a high degree of personal accountability. This results in the perfectionist experiencing more often than not a compulsion to bridge the gulf between reality and an ideal themselves. We're never happy with reality. We are always trying to reach this ideal and think, what could I do to reach that? But the problem is that you always add on more things to the ideal. So yes, you may have achieved yesterday's ideal, but that's not today's ideal. I'm just going to flip to random pages and see what the book is trying to tell us today. Messy perfectionists blatantly ignore limitations and don't accept the notion that while you can do anything, you cannot do everything. It takes focus to bring something to completion. You have to say no to secondary opportunities so that you can concentrate on matters of importance. Oh, here's another one. Being healthy is not the decision to stop being unhealthy. It's the decision to rise to the occasion of your life. Ooh, I like that. External wins and losses don't make or break you when you're connected to your inherent self-worth. So basically, winning, losing, getting the job, not getting the job is not going to affect you as a person when you're connected to your own self-worth. Okay, I'm going to read y'all one more line, and y'all tell me if we should ever come back to this book or if we should do another one. Being present invites relief from living in a world where what's missing and wrong relentlessly eclipses what's good and already there. Even in the moments when being present is hard because embracing reality is always painful, presence retains an amazing quality. We're always trying to watch something new, do something new, and then we'll be happy. But like, what about enjoying those rough moments? And I gotta admit, when I say that out loud, I don't fucking want to do that. You think I enjoy like rough moments? Because I don't. Like, I just want to skip to the part, if I'm being honest, where everything is good and peachy and I just completely neglected everything that I have said in this episode. But those were just some magical lines that found its way to our podcast from this book. Anywho, guys, I hope that episode 10 was a refreshing start for us. I am so excited for what's to come for this pod and to keep you guys updated. And with that, that is today's episode. Please, I'm begging you, be sure to subscribe on all platforms. Follow the podcast on Instagram at TeasePod, at TeasePodcast, at everything else. Subscribe on YouTube and whatever listening platform that you have. And be sure to leave a 5-star rating. Please, can you just rate it right now? Just do it. Just rate the episode. Come on, you got it. Share it with a friend. Share it with someone who you think needs this reset, but we don't want a clean girl reset. We just want like a real fucking rough bitch reset. Thank you so much for listening, guys. It was so good being back with y'all. I will see you guys next week. I have some exciting things actually that I made for you guys, so I cannot wait to talk to you guys about that. And I will see you soon. I love you guys. Bye. Episode 10, baby. Cheers.